Hey guys, in today's video we're going to talk about why you're wrong about the Dodge Viper. You know, I really wanted to do this video when I was next to the car. You know, it's just something about that car is so special that I wanted to do this video next to it. But because of it's still hot 90s here in Florida and the construction next to us, it was almost impossible to be able to edit this video. So I decided to do it in the bonus room. So let's talk about why you're wrong about the Dodge Viper. Now, first of all, what do people really say about the Dodge Viper? People say that the Viper's cheap. Sure it is. It is a cheap car. You are correct. The interior sucks. Yes, the dash is plastic. Nothing great about the interior of the car. The Viper is an American-made sports car. It can't even be on the same league or category as a Ferrari and Lamborghini, which are far superior. You're absolutely correct, guys. How can you mention the Dodge Viper, Ferrari, or Lamborghini in the same sentence? It can't. I mean, those cars are so far out of the Viper's league, it isn't even close. So, yeah, everyone's right so far. The Viper sucks to drive. Guys, I've driven the vehicle from Jacksonville to Tampa, from Tampa to Miami. This car is horrendous to drive. I absolutely hate this car. Matter of fact, driving it any more than just to the grocery store is a pain in the ass. I absolutely hate it. This vehicle is not exotic. It cannot be an exotic car if it's made in the United States. I mean, seriously, exotics are made overseas. The Viper is not a supercar. Guys, get over this. We've beaten this topic with a dead horse. I mean, the Viper is not a supercar. Guys, we've beaten this topic. It's just, let's get over it. The Viper is not a supercar. End of story. Next topic. The Viper is just a Dodge. Guys, finally, we understand what the Viper is. It's an American Dodge product. So why are you wrong about the Dodge Viper? Well, first of all, let's go back through the list. The Viper's cheap, right? That's what we all hear. Well, in 1998, the Viper was $68,000 new. That's what my Viper cost. Well, if you do the inflation calculator and add what it would cost today in today's society, in today's market, in 2021, it is $114,000. That is not cheap. And sure, you're going to talk about, well, Steve, you can't compare that to what the car is worth. You know, of course, they depreciate. I get it. These cars depreciate a lot. So yeah, you could have found these cars a few years ago for $30,000. Try to find one of those now today for $30,000 in good condition that's been well maintained. You're not going to find it for 30. You probably ain't going to find it for 40. Most of the Vipers right now are selling for $50,000 or more. And if they're really in pristine condition, you will see them nearly six figures for a Gen 2. The Viper market is going crazy right now. But that's not because the Viper market is something special. It's because there's no cars being made. Because of COVID, there has been, all used car prices has gone up. So the Viper is nothing special on reasons why it's going up. But what is different is people are buying these cars in today's market. When there's a lot of people out of jobs, people searching for jobs. And people don't want to work. Let's be completely honest. A lot of businesses are struggling to stay open because they can't find workers. But somehow, people are willing to still pay top dollar for the Dodge Viper and other cars that are considered complete luxury. Yes, let's talk about the interior. You know what? I am so sick of everyone talking about how cheap and plastic the interior is. The interior on the Dodge Viper is functional. You know, would you complain about it being cheap if they just slap some leather on there? Does that make it a huge difference? Because in the 90s, that's the only thing they were doing. All the interiors of all these cars were plastic. And sure, you could put leather on there and glue it on, and then 5 years, 10 years later, the glue's coming off of it, and you have to redo the whole interior of the car. Sure, you could add some leather there and make it more luxurious. But the Viper wasn't about being luxurious. It was about just being a street race car. I mean, power. It was about being, well, brutal. And that's what the Viper was about. So yeah, you can say that the interior sucks. I say the interior is completely functional, and I absolutely love how it's aged over time. Sure, I don't have to worry about going down and getting the car repulsurized. The seats are actually really amazing. They're comfortable. And yes, I've driven the Viper from Jacksonville to Miami. You know, I've driven it all over the state of Florida, and I have no issues with it. Absolutely love it. My wife, who hates the Viper for as a lot of things about it, not being really a daily driver, not being other things, but the ride quality, she absolutely enjoys it. The seats are comfortable, and they were better than my Corvettes. So guys, I absolutely love the interior of the Dodge Viper. Let's go ahead and talk about the Viper being American made and how it can't be used against the Lamborghini and Ferrari, and how they shouldn't be even in the same category. You know what? It's really amazing that 90% of my viewers are American, and you know, the people that make these nasty comments, most of them are American, and they act like Americans are stupid. I mean, look at you. Where were you born at, man? I swear to God, it's like some of you people, you just want to act like you know so much, and how JDM's so much better, and how all these cars are so great. When, yeah, I expect a modified Supra to beat a Viper, but you put a modified Viper next to a modified Supra, the Viper should win that contest. People have started modifying the Vipers, and you're getting 3,000 plus horsepower out of these cars. And sure, you know, some people, they just want the newest and greatest, and they want to look back at the original cars and act like they're junk. The Gen 1 car was an amazing car. What it really did was inspire us to get faster and better. And while the Gen 2 car had real windows, and it has a better hood in my opinion, it has a little bit less weight, it outperformed Ferrari. It outperformed Lamborghini. You're talking cars that are a lot more expensive, and it was better than. It was also hand built. It wasn't made in an assembly line that was made by machines and everything. These cars were hand built, one at a time. You know, they didn't go to bed and the machine just go down the assembly line and making these cars. You know, these cars were limited production cars. And people just want to act like Ferrari is better. You know, sure, you can talk about the Ferrari F50 and F40 being better. Okay, the interior in the F40 sucks. It's probably worse than the Viper, but you guys will give the F40 a pass saying, well, hey, Steve, basically it's a race car for the streets. Well, that's exactly what the Viper was for. Yet you would call that exotic, you would call that a supercar, but you won't call the Viper a supercar, nor will you call it exotic, when the F40 and the Viper is very, very similar as far as performance. The Viper's top speed was 192 miles per hour. Ferrari claimed it did over 200 miles per hour, but no magazine was able to confirm it. The top speed that they got out of these vehicles was 199 miles per hour. Talking 7 miles per hour difference between the two cars. Sure, the F40 was, you know, carbon fiber, and it had different things that was so futuristic. Yeah, I get it. But what Viper did, it was unbelievable. And it wasn't trying to compete with the F40 and F50. You go anywhere else in the world and you have a Dodge Viper, you are driving a very exotic car. You know, it's funny because I live in Central Florida and I don't see Vipers very often. And mostly when I do see them, it's people I know that now has them. When I bought my Viper, I was one of the only ones in my local area that had one. Now, a lot of people have them because they absolutely loved seeing it. People wanted to buy one. People did buy them. So yes, while people say that the Viper sucks, and yeah, your pedals are off shifted a little bit, and it does take some time to get used to, it doesn't have a dead pedal, you know what? None of that matters. The car is extremely comfortable to drive. I've driven it for hours. I've driven it to Miami, which is 4.5 hours. The car is amazing to drive. And while people talk about it not being a supercar, great, sure. You can call it just a sports car if you want. But the Viper has outperformed every supercar that you want to talk about in the 90s. Name one. The Viper outperformed it. The Viper was exotic looking, and the Viper is limited production. So it meets all the criteria. Poster car, racing history, won the 24 Hours of Daytona, overall winner. Sure, it won Le Mans too, but since it was an overall winner, Ford versus Ferrari didn't advertise it, saying that no one else has ever won, and the Corvettes won it too. So there are many other cars that's won Le Mans as well. It had so many records throughout its history. Absolutely, the Dodge Viper is a supercar. And I know the argument is going to be, well, Steve, the new Gen 5 could be considered a supercar, but the older ones, they're not. Why? Give me one reason why it's not considered a supercar. A valid reason why it's not. The interior, because it's plastic. If you put leather on there, it would be a supercar. Seriously? The interior of a car itself doesn't make it a superior car. Remember, supercars were about performance. It wasn't about luxury. Only in today's world and today's era does it matter about luxury. Most of us, we only care about the sound and performance of a vehicle. Again, that's the reason why the Viper was so special. And sure, let's go ahead and just talk about it being just a Dodge while we're at this. You called the Ford GT40 just a Ford? When they created this in the 90s, actually it was in the late 80s, the Viper should have never been made. It was a car that made no rational sense to make. Big cubic inch V10, 8 liters, okay, in the 90s. Pushing 400 horsepower. There wasn't many cars pushing 400. And then you had the second generation pushing over 490 horsepower. And I know everyone's going to argue, well, Steve, the magazine says 450. I have done so many videos on it. You just got to go back and watch it. There's videos on here that will show you that this car had 490 horsepower, 500 foot-pounds of torque, okay? In the freaking 90s, okay? This car was built with a purpose. It was a true race car for the streets. This car showed America that it can build a badass car for a fraction of the cost of these Ferraris and Lamborghinis and everything else that we're all drooling over when we see one. And sure, some people prefer the F1 sound of a vehicle. And I absolutely love the high-pitched sounds of these cars that the new Corvette's going to have. But nothing says power. Nothing says I'm a bully. Nothing says I'm going to take your girlfriend like a Dodge Viper does. When a Viper shows up, it gets the respect. It's the Mike Tyson of the boxing world, but only in the car community. That is what the Dodge Viper is. You don't want to underestimate it. It's not just a Dodge. It's a Dodge freaking Viper. And don't forget that, guys. It is a badass car. Thanks for watching this video as always. God bless and take care.